Hello, today is something a little bit different. If you watched the video I made about Twelfth Night, this is going to be something like that. The subject of the video is a play called The School for Scandal by Richard Brinsley Sheridan. Today's video is predominantly for my university studies. For Professor Kennedy, I'll get to the university stuff in a couple of minutes and I'll put a timestamp in there for you so you don't have to listen to me blather away about things that you're far more familiar with than I am. I'll do the blathering for people who have no idea about the play, all right? But you jump ahead to over there on the video. You see, I marked it with your name. The School for Scandal is what was known as a comedy of manners. It was first performed at the Drury Lane Theatre in London in 1777. What is a comedy of manners? Well, it seems to me that half of the characters are displaying some of the most detestable characteristics of human psychology, and the other half are fairly nice people. And in the end of the play, after a bit of conflict between the two camps, the morally superior people are justified in their superiority and the morally detestable people are denounced as hypocrites and scoundrels. It's okay. It is. I'm enjoying the British theatre medieval to modern class more and more, especially as the plays get closer chronologically to myself. They're just far more easier to understand and they are much more like the plays that are performed today. And oftentimes they are the plays that are performed today. A few points about Richard Brinsley Sheridan. The most interesting point was when he was either 20 or 21 years of age, he fought a duel with swords. There's quite a fun write-up of this on Wikipedia, that the first attempt at the duel didn't come off because the first location they chose was too crowded, so they went to another location and to a third location, at which point the man, some captain, something or other, whom he was supposed to have the duel with, confessed that he'd lost his sword, and so Sheridan was announced the victor of this duel. But then the captain could not abide by that and the slight against his reputation, so they fought a second duel where Richard Brinsley Sheridan got the shit kicked out of him. Apparently his face was pummeled to jelly by the scabbard of the captain's weapon, which sounds very unpleasant, but at least he wasn't getting it with the sharp end. My favorite part of the play was the two characters, Sir Peter Teazle and his wife, Lady Teazle, because he was much older than her when they married, and she will never let him forget it, it seems. And they have quite a lot of these humorous interactions where, well, quite sharp, biting, vicious, perhaps, comments are going back and forth, where she's saying how old he is, and he's saying, well, you're just a little bit of stuff from the countryside, so don't get on your high horse with me, lady. And that is really quite good. I enjoy that very much. So in Act 2, Scene 1, Sir Peter and Lady Teazle. Lady Teazle. Sir Peter, you may scold or smile according to your humor, but I ought to have my own way in everything. And what's more, I will too. What? Though I was educated in the country, I know very well that women of fashion in London are accountable to nobody after they are married. Sir Peter, very well, ma'am, very well. So a husband is to have no influence, no authority? Authority, no, to be sure. If you wanted authority over me, you should have adopted me, not married me. I am sure you were old enough. My. So they go back and forth quite in their happy manner. And now here's where I come to what I would like to talk about for this little episode in regard to my university studies. So we had a quiz last week about this play, and one of the questions on the quiz number 2, question number 7, why are Sir Peter and Lady Teazle having difficulties getting along? I would be a fool to question the validity of this quiz because the quiz was constructed, questions and 4 multiple choice answers by the professor. So if anyone knows the correct answer, he does, right? And you would have to be stark raving mad to question or disagree. Question number 7. Why are Sir Peter and Lady Teazle having difficulties getting along? A, he's always right and she's too stubborn to admit it. B, he's old enough to be her dad. C, differences over religion. D, differences over politics. Okay, we can disregard the last two. The correct answer, according to the professor who wrote the question, I would like to stress that so that if you're wondering who's right in this scenario, you should probably cast your vote with him. He chose the answer, he's old enough to be her dad. I did not choose that answer. I chose the answer, he is always right and she is too stubborn to admit it. Why did I choose that answer? I will tell you, and this is the theme or the thesis or the prognosis or the halitosis of this video today. Because they do argue, yes, very quarrelsome couple fighting. Oh, you're too old. Well, you can go back to the farm if you don't like it, honey. There's a lot of that and I enjoyed that a lot. But in Act 3, Scene 1, I would like to offer this for support for my answer to the quiz. Enter Lady Teazle. All right, so she asks him for £200. £200, and he gives it to her with a little credit note. But they use this moment to kiss and make up momentarily. And you shall no longer reproach me with not giving you an independent settlement. I shall shortly surprise you, and you'll not call me ungenerous, but shall always live thus, hey? If you please, I'm sure I don't care how soon we leave off quarreling, provided you'll own that you were tired first. Well, then let our future contest be who shall be the most obliging. So they're settling down, and it seems that they're going to find some conjugal happiness amidst the quarreling. Lady Teazle, I assure you, Sir Peter, good nature becomes you. You look now as you did before we were married, when you used to walk with me under the elms and tell me stories of what a gallant you were in your youth, and chuck me under the chin you would and ask me if I thought I could love an old fellow who would deny me nothing, didn't you? Yes, yes, and you were as kind and attentive. Aye, so I was, and would always take your part when my acquaintances used to abuse you and turn you into ridicule. Indeed, aye, and when my cousin Sophie has called you a stiff, peevish, old bachelor, and laugh at me for thinking of marrying you who might be my father, I've always defended you and said I didn't think you so ugly by any means, and that you'd make a very good sort of husband, and you prophesied right, and we shall certainly now be the happiest couple and never differ again. No, never. Though, at the same time, indeed, my dear Lady Teazle, you must watch your temper very narrowly. For in all of our little quarrels, my dear, if you recollect, my love, you always began first. The opening salvos. Lady Teazle, I beg your pardon, my dear Sir Peter. Indeed, you always gave provocation. Now, see, my love, take care. Contradicting isn't the way to keep friends. Lady Teazle, then don't you begin it, my love. Sir Peter, there now, you are going on. You don't perceive, my life, that you are just doing the very thing, my love, which you know makes me angry. Lady Teazle, nay, you know, if you will be angry without any reason, my dear. There, now, you want to quarrel again. No, I'm sure I don't, but if you will be so peevish. There, now who begins first? Why, you do, to be sure, I said nothing. But there is no bearing your temper. No, no, my dear, the fault's in your own temper. Aye, and you are just what my cousin Sophie said you would be. Your cousin Sophie is a forward, impertinent gypsy. I was going to try to say something, but that's pretty bad, especially these days. I'll say it again because it's so rude. Your cousin Sophie is a forward, impertinent gypsy. Go, you great bear. How dare you abuse my relations? Now may all of the plagues of marriage be doubled on me if I ever try to be friends with you anymore. And Lady Teazle says, so much the better. I got a massive chuckle when I read that the first time. No kidding. And I would like to put that scene from Act 3 forward as, well, a bit of support for my answer that he's always right and she, what is it? He's always right and she's too stubborn to admit it. Okay, all right, word by word. I know it's not exactly correct. He's always right And she's always right, and they're both too stubborn to admit it. All right, I guess you're going to look at it word by word. It's not really the correct answer, but I wanted that to be the answer because it's quite obvious the dilemma between him being so much older and her being younger, and that is, for me, that was the best part of the play. Even though it's, 250 years old, it is still quite a lot of fun. There is this Uncle Oliver who comes back from traveling in India, and he has two wayward nephews, and he's heard about their irresolute and prodigal nature, and he disguises himself because they haven't seen him for years and years, and so they won't recognize him, and he tests their dissolute morality, and one of them fails the test, and the other one, surprising to me, seems to pass the test with a bit of somewhat nepotistical favoritism, I would say. But, oh well. Yeah, that's it. And that's the end of the video for today. Well, this is from my university studies. This is not my usual thing, but perhaps you enjoyed it anyway. This is actually just part one. And part two is that one of the fun things we get to do is to translate this into modern English. And I did this for one of the earlier plays that we read. And that seemed to be a bit easier for me because I was translating Shakespeare's Twelfth Night into modern English. And because that style of English was quite different, that was very, I won't say easy, but it was easier to do than this. Like, I've been reading this play trying to think how I can modernize the vocabulary, but it's already quite close to modern English. Like, it is really not very far away. What I just read there, that arguing dialogue between those two characters, I think that's quite good already. Like, to me, that's English. That is not far away from our own vernacular. Anyway, I'm already starting to explain stuff that I don't need to explain. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Hello. I feel like the camera is a bit